something we all could use. So I would like to read something to you from the sage, Dear Abby. And I read this yesterday. If you were here, please excuse me. This is called The Paradox of Our Times. The paradox of our times is that we have taller buildings, but shorter tempers. Wider freeways, but narrower viewpoints. We buy more, but enjoy it less. Have bigger houses and smaller families. More conveniences, but less time. We have more advanced degrees, but less common sense. More knowledge, but less good judgment. More medicine, but less wellness. We have multiplied our possessions, but reduced our values. We have higher incomes, but lower morals. We have been all the way to the moon and back, but have trouble crossing the street to meet a new neighbor. We have conquered outer space, but our inner space is still a mystery to many of us. We've cleaned up the air, but polluted the soul. Split the atom, but not our prejudices. We talk too much, love too seldom, and hate too often. These are times of steep profits and shallow relationships. More leisures, but less fun. 2 incomes and more divorce. It is a time when there is much in the showroom and nothing in the stockroom. A time when technology can bring a letter to you in seconds, and you can choose either to make a difference or just hit delete. So the question we ask ourselves is, where is your treasure? Is it in the bank? Is it in your garage? Or is it in your home and your family? Wherever your treasure is where you need to spend the most time, because those are where your values are. You know, we learn Hawaiian values from our Tutu, from our parents, through the power of example. And these are the things that will keep us strong when we have crisis in our life. When you have all kinds of things going on, and we need that reservoir of strength, it is the values that are going to keep us going and keep us afloat. And so today, what I would like to share with you are the stories behind these values. In ancient times, when all of the ancient ways were forbidden, how they communicated the important things were through stories. Because these stories would not be monitored, and that way you could teach your children, your kupuna, all the things that were important. And so it is the values that connects hula, olelo Hawaii, Lomilomi, la'aula ka'au. These are all of the things that are connected through these values. And they are universal everywhere. Families are taught these things. And so this is something I love. It's going to be a lot on Hawaiian values and empowerment of us as women. And the first story that I would like to share with you is called Finding the Flame. And if you'll excuse me, I'd like to read part of this. It reminds me of us sometimes. I was in burnout. I had lost my passion, my fire. My work had grown repetitious, and my life was falling apart. I had a 2-week stint in paradise, and still that couldn't revive me. I felt no aloha, no spirit, just deadness inside. I flew to Kauai in the isolation of a friend's home to rekindle my flame. Some folks, when they hit the low point in their life, pray to hit the lottery or be swept off their feet by the love of their life. The symbol of the lost flame became a simple glass ball. You see them all over the islands. They have come from the fishermen's net. What's happened is they've broken loose and they float on the current to Hawaii. And you see them all over. And this woman who's telling this story says all of her friends said to her, you know what, they don't use these glass balls anymore. They only have the plastic ones, and it's been years and years. And for Shirley, this woman, she said the glass ball became the symbol of the lost flame that she was looking for. They had survived sometimes years in the ocean and found their way to a new shore. And in their crude simplicity, they represented hope and a promise of a new tomorrow. Surely there was one little glass ball left in this big ocean that would come to her to symbolize a new hope for a better tomorrow. Every morning she would walk Anahola Beach, Anahola Beach in its beautiful curve of sand and seek that glass ball that may wash up. Every evening she retraced her steps way into the night to find that mythical and magical glass ball that would change her life. She said, each morning I asked God and the ocean for one small glass ball, a sign that my life would be better. I cried over the sadness I was feeling and let the red glow of the sun fill me with hope. Every evening, I watched the sun exit behind the ocean horizon. On the last evening in paradise, there was a storm that was kicking up, and the skies were dark. By that time, she said, I had pretty much conditioned myself that I was not going to find the glass ball that I was looking for. And I felt really stupid that I would be speaking to the ocean and asking the ocean for help. Suddenly, she looked under the sand, and there was something shiny and dull. And she dug it up. It was a discarded light bulb. She was so disappointed. And under it was something else. And she said, why not? And as she dug it up, there was one small little glass ball, exactly what she had asked for, one small glass ball. She said, this was it. This was my gift, what I had been looking for, the symbol of my promise. It was done. I had my answer. She took it back to the cabin and scrubbed it and cleaned it. She even went to bed with it and put it by her pillow. She said, that night I had a dream. I dreamed of glass balls of every shape and size surrounding me. I had never seen so many. They were at my feet and hanging on invisible wires around me, and I was dancing amongst them all. When I woke up at 4:30, the day was just beginning to be born. The dream still surrounded me. I slipped out of bed, grabbed my backpack, and started headed toward the ocean. Fully rested and fully awake, I knew I was walking into a magical world. Barely had I started down the beach when there at my feet was a glass ball. As though expecting it, I picked it up and put it in my pack, remembering to thank the ocean for 2 glass balls. A few feet down the beach, I saw another one, bobbing in the water. I gathered it up only to see another one just feet away. The next one was resting at the edge of the beach debris. My pack was full, yet I moved on, still in a dream. As I neared the river mouth, the sun was just coming up and in a red ball of fire. A strong flash was in front of me, and there, 100 feet away, basking on a sandbar, reflecting the sun's touch, was a large, radiant, clear circle of light. I dropped my pack, my feet left the sand, and I stretched out my arms. I was a child running to accept her prize. The world was magic, and anything was possible. I will never forget what it felt like that morning when the child in me dropped everything she was carrying and ran with outstretched arms to accept the gift that was hers. The sadness, the deadness, the pain, everything just fell away, and in that moment, I knew the promise of joy and abundance. If a glass ball had found its way through a stormy ocean to a new day, so could I. And I love this story about the glass ball and how sometimes we feel that deadness inside. We feel like, you know, we are surrounded by a box, or we're living just in our own life and not connected to anyone. You know, about 4 months ago, I went down to the healing pools in Makapu'u, and I take people there for sacred tours. And we go there to pick up the opala on the beach. And as I was collecting all the opala, there on the sand was this little glass ball. And I was so thrilled to have it and to find it. After I've been telling the story so many times, I was gifted with a glass ball. And it is my hope that, and this glass ball represents all of us, that even though it's been a long time, this glass ball has been in the ocean many years, it can find its way to a new shore, and there's hope for all of us. I have several Hawaiian values here that I would like to share with you, and I'm going to let you pick which one we hear. So I would like to start here with you. Would you pick one for us, please? Okay, thank you. She picked the Hawaiian value, kupuna. Can you say that? Kupuna means amazing. And this is a true story told to me by my son. My son lives on the island of Maui. In fact, I have 6 children and 17 grandchildren. And when it was his birthday, I called him and I said, "Hey, Conan, happy birthday. So how old are you, 33? He goes, "Mom, I'm 37. I goes, "Oh, sorry. I lost track of how old my kids are. I remember their birthday, but I can't remember how old they are." Anyway, this is a story of my son who lives on Maui. He has a little place in Iao Valley. And he's at the entrance of Iao Valley where the traffic speeds in and there's traffic speeding out. And he lives at the bottom of a steep slope. And at the top, facing the road, are beautiful plumeria trees. And his landlady said to him, "Don't let anyone pick the plumeria because sometimes they're not careful and they break all the branches. They're so delicate." So he said, "Okay." Well, one day he was unloading Tahitian drums from his car. He teaches Tahitian drumming. He's a fire night dancer. And his 2 little girls, Eleu, who's 5, and Bye-Bye, who's 3, were there talking to him as he unloaded these big drums from his car. And what had happened just days before that, one of the kupuna had come by and picked flowers. And she was very careful, and he figured, oh well, a one-time kind of thing, you know, I'll just let it go. Well, it seems that she came every day now to pick the plumeria from the tree. And he's so respectful, he's so olu, so kind-hearted, he didn't want to tell her not to pick flowers, so he pretended he didn't see her. And so every day she would come and she would pick the plumeria. Well, on this particular day when he was unloading the drums from his car, his two little girls were there playing, and suddenly he heard horns beeping at the top of the road. And he looked around and he saw only one of his daughters there. The 3-year-old was missing. And he said his heart just fell. And he told Eleo, stay there. And he ran up to the top of the hill, really afraid of what he might find. And when he got up there, he saw his baby safely held in the arms of the kupuna, who had been picking flowers. Apparently what had happened is that she had wandered up onto the road, and the cars were beeping their horns to warn the other motorists to watch out for her. They were going so fast they couldn't stop. And so here this kupuna had come and lifted her up and carried her. And he said when he held his daughter, his heart was just beating so fast, and he was so grateful that she was safe. And as he went home, he said, he remembered, oh, I forgot to thank her. And he said, well, I won't worry about it. I'll see her tomorrow. She's been here every day for months, you know. And so the next morning he went to look for her, and she wasn't there. And the next day, and the next day, she never returned. And he said to me, I think she was an angel sent by Keakua to save my daughter. And I want to tell you that each one of us has angels in our lives that protect us and watch over us. It is nothing short of amazing that we are loved and we are cared for. Kupainaha is amazing. Okay, our next Hawaiian value. You can pick one. Thank you. This Hawaiian value is the word ho'omaka. Can you say that? Ho'omaka. Ho'omaka means to begin anew. The year is 1934, the place Peking, China. There was a doctor who received a letter, and this letter said, Dear doctor, I was under the care of another doctor in the hospital. I had lost my baby the day it was born, and I was so sad. And then my doctor said that you were there. You had the same last name as me, and you wanted to come to meet me because we may be relatives. She said a short time later you came into my room. You didn't say much of anything, but you placed your hand on my arm, and pretty soon I felt better. And she said, after that I never saw you again. But the nurses told me that you were here practically night and day in the hospital. She said in the letter, today I was a guest in a beautiful home here in Peking. And on the wall, written on a brass plate, about 2 feet long, were the words in kanji that said, enjoy yourself. It is later than you think. She said I had not wanted another child because I was still grieving for the one I had lost. But at that moment, I thought, maybe it was later for me than I thought. And because I thought of my baby, I thought of you and your kindness to me. So I'm writing you this letter. On the day you receive it, please think very carefully about the words, and it was signed Marguerite. Well, this doctor usually slept very well at night, but that night he tossed and turned and woke up many times. And in the morning, he decided that he was going to do something about it. He called his office, and he called his nurse and said, cancel my appointments for the next 3 months. I'm going to South America. South America was his dream of his lifetime. This is where he wanted to go. He called his best friend Shorty, and he said, Shorty, pack your bags. You and I are going to South America. Well, Shorty said, you know what? I need to close some deals. I'm really busy. But the doctor told him this story. And then Shorty said, you know what? I've been waiting to close these deals a long, long time. I'm going to go with you. And so both of them went to South America. And the doctor lived his dream of a lifetime. And while they were there, they were entertained by a wealthy steel miner. And Shorty says to the miner, do you golf? And the man said, yes. As a matter of fact, my wife and children are in America right now golfing. And I told them 5 years ago that I would join them in 5 years, but I still have had no time. And Shorty said, do you know why we are here? And the miner said, you probably had a lot of extra money and a lot of extra time. And Shorty said, quite on the contrary. He told them the story about the brass plate and about the words. Well, in the morning, the steel miner, when he came down to breakfast, said, that was a very long finger indeed that wrote those words on the wall in China. I have emailed my wife and children that I am coming to join them. And Shorty, who was well and strong months before, has gone on to his reward. And his best friend, the doctor, who sat at his best friend's deathbed, said, Shorty said to him, I'm so glad we went to South America. I am so glad we didn't wait. Is there something you have put on the back burners in your life? Is there something you really, really wanted to do? Or is there someone you really needed to talk to? Enjoy yourself. It is later than you think. Now is the time to live your dreams. Now is the time to do those things which will bring joy to your heart. Ho'omaka, you begin anew. Okay, let me come down this side here and see. Would you like to pick one? Okay, thank you. Our next Hawaiian value is the word aulike. Can you say that? Aulike. Aulike means kindness. Kindness. This is a very short story. I was living in Palm Springs at one time, and one of my students in Pasadena had come over to our house, and I had brought some southern cooking, one of which was a pulled pork. And I put it in my microwave oven, and I had a Kalua pig explosion in there. Everything was like all over the microwave oven. It was like, oh my God, it's all stuck to the walls. And then my doorbell rang, and I went to answer it. I forgot all about that Kalua pig, and it was one of my students. So we talked for a while, and then I said, oh, why don't you come and have lunch with us, you know? So I said, okay. He walked into the kitchen with me. I opened the microwave oven, and there's this mess of Kalua pig all stuck to the microwave oven. And he's so kind. He looked in, he was kind of like this. He pretended that he didn't see it. And I thought, you know what, that is so kind of him, because it was quite a mess. And, you know, there's many things we can do that are kind to other people. And as we are kind, it brings joy to our heart, you know, and kindness is something that people always remember. I know when I go to Japan to teach, they often say, that is very kind. They think kindness is something that's very extraordinary and very special. And I think in Hawaii, it is something that we take for granted. We're just, you know, we just like to see people happy and to do things for them. Aulike is kindness. Whoops, I got these all mixed up here. Okay, so that was a sharp one right here. Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, our next Hawaiian value is the word malu. Can you say that? Malu. Malu means There was once a very famous actor. He had anything that money could buy. In fact, he was on the front of magazines every week. He had movies that came out. He had a beautiful home, a gorgeous wife, and great kids, yet he was unhappy. He did not have peace in his life. And although he was seeking peace, he could never quite find it. But one day he had a brilliant idea. He thought, if I commission 2 artists to paint the picture of peace, maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to find the peace that has eluded me so far. Well, the first artist drew a picture of a tall mountain with snow on the top of it, and it was reflected in this beautiful lake. And this was his idea of peace. The second artist also drew a tall mountain, but it had a great waterfall that came crashing down on these jagged rocks, and the spray flew up into the air. There by the side of this lake was a tall tree, and in the branches of the tree was a little nest with a baby bird. A baby bird was fast asleep with little droplets of spray on his head. And this was, no matter what was going on outside with the raging waterfall, peace comes from within. Well, this famous actor had at last found the peace that he was looking for, and he put that picture in a place of honor over his mantle. He now knew that if you carry peace in your heart, you will always have it. Malu is peace. Okay, I'll come in here. Okay, thank you. This Hawaiian value is the word ho'omana. Can you say that? Ho'omana. Ho'omana means to be empowered. There was a woman who lived in a tiny cottage at the top of a hill. And her cottage was very small, very modest. She had a beautiful little garden, which she kept manicured very nicely. And she would put her little rocking chair on the little porch there. And every night, as the sun started to set, she would look across at the other mountain. And there on that mountain was a big, beautiful home with a Monier tile roof and a wrought iron fence around it. But when the sun started to go down, it would light up the windows of this house until they shone like gold. And she called this the house with the golden windows. And she thought it was the most beautiful house in all the world. But one day she decided that she had to visit this home that she loved so much. And so she spent the whole day going down through the valley and up to the other mountain peak. And when she reached the other side, she looked and she looked, but as if by magic, the house with the golden windows had disappeared. In its place was another structure that had a Monier tile roof, but all of the tiles were falling down and cracked. There was a garden, but it was untended, with many weeds growing around it. And the wrought iron fence was so rusty. And she was so disappointed, and as the sun started to go down, she looked over her shoulder the way she had come. And there on the other mountain range was her humble little home. And as the sun started to set, it lit up the windows of her home until they shone like gold. All this time she had lived in the house with the golden windows, and she didn't even know it. You know, often we see other people and what they have. They have a better job or a better home or more than what we have. And we think that they have it good. But, you know, we have been blessed with so many things. we are empowered when we realize that we are cared for and that we are loved. There's a card that I read once, and this is what it says about God's love for us. Each season gives way to the next. The stars maintain their perfect placement. The earth keeps its steady course around the sun, and God loves you. By hour, by day, by week, by month, by year after beautiful year, God loves you. And I think it's important for us to know that we are loved and we are cared for. There was I had a Lua group from Kauai come to Oahu to learn spiritual warfare. It's actually about protecting themselves. And this one person in the class heard this story, and he said, I didn't know that God loved me. And I felt so sad for him, because think of all this time he went on not knowing that he was loved. And I want to tell you that you are loved no matter what, and that you make a difference, and that you are perfect just the way you are. I think we need to remember that we are whole and well, and that we are enough. Can you say that? I am enough. I am. Say it again. I am enough. Just as you are enough. Ho'omana, empowered. Okay, let's come on this side. Oh, I'm sorry, this side. All different kind of stories here. Did I have you? Okay. Okay, I love this story. I have my favorite. This word is malama. Can you say that? Malama. It means to care for with love. This is a story of two women who went to college together, and every year they would meet up again, and this time in Santa Fe, and they would catch up on the news of what they had done during the previous year. Well, they went to a small little diner, and as they were sitting down, they were actually led to the back of the diner, where it was very quiet. And as they were sitting there, they couldn't help but notice an elderly couple that was sitting nearby. The man was very tall and had beautiful white hair and tan and very athletic looking. And the woman was still beautiful and very petite and lovely. But what caught their attention is the way she looked at this man with such adoration in her eyes. And one friend said, I think they just met. They must have just met, the way she's looking at him. And the other friend said, no, I think they've been married a while. And as they kind of eavesdropped on the conversation, the man asked her opinion about a business venture he was doing, and the woman seemed to agree with him. And then he ordered dinner for her, reminding her that veal was her very favorite. And then he held her hand, and as the two friends looked on, they thought, wow, this is love. Well, the scene seemed to change, and a very perplexed look came over the older woman's face. And she looked at the man and she said, do I know you? What is this place? And he said, yes, you know me. I'm your husband, Bob, and we're here in Santa Fe. It's our daughter's birthday. And she said, I'm sorry, I seem to have forgotten. And he said, don't worry, honey. He said, eat your dinner, and then we'll go back to the room and lay down. And he tenderly touched her cheek, and he said to her, you look very beautiful tonight. The two friends, as they looked on, had tears in their eyes as they looked at this touching scene, and they said, now this is truly love. Malama, to care for with love. ole. Can you say that? Viva ole. It sounds like you should be eating tacos and going, Viva ole, or something like that. But this means fearless. I'd like to read an excerpt from one of my favorite books. It's called Illusions by Richard Bach. And he is the one who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Once there lived a village of creatures along the bottom of a great crystal river. The current of the river swept silently over them all, young and old, rich and poor, good and evil. The current going its own way, knowing only its own crystal self. Each creature, in its own manner, clung tightly to the twigs and rocks of the river bottom, for clinging was their way of life, and resisting the current, what each had learned from birth. But one creature said at last, I'm tired of clinging. Though I cannot see it with my eyes, I trust that the current knows where it is going. I shall let go and let it take me where it will. Clinging, I shall die of boredom. The other creatures laughed at him and said, Fool, let go, and that current you worship will throw you and tumble you and smash you across the rocks, and you will die quicker than boredom. But the one heeded them not, and taking a breath, did let go, and at once was tumbled and smashed by the current across the rocks. Yet in time, the creature refused to cling again, and the current lifted him free from the bottom, and he was bruised and hurt no more. And the creatures downstream, to whom he was a stranger, cried, See a miracle, a creature like ourselves, yet he flies. See the Messiah come to save us all. And the one carried in the current said, I am no more Messiah than you. The river delights to lift us free, if only we dare to let go. Our true work is this voyage, this adventure. But they cried all the more, Savior, all the while clinging to the rocks. And when they looked again, he was gone. It sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? This reminds us about how fearful we can be. And we stop the flow of energy by clinging too tightly. As we allow Spirit to come through us, as we trust, as we have faith, as we listen from our na'au and our heart, we can let go and go with the flow. And you know what? Maybe for a while, it's not going to be perfect, but it will be the way it's supposed to be. At one time, I was a nurse with Hospice Hawaii, and I worked with them for a while. And I knew at that point that I needed to do something else. I needed to do what I loved most, which was teaching. And so there was someone I had met volunteering my time to do Lomilomi. And this person had called me up every day saying, I want to come to see you. She had sent a bunch of people from her office to see me. And her boyfriend, who could not raise his hand higher than this, with Healing with Shells, he was able to raise his hand, and more she wanted to send people to me. And so finally, when I quit my job, she called and I said, okay, you can come over and then I'll see you. Well, she sent 27 people to me that first month. And I was able to keep going and to build my clientele. And this is, again, about trusting and going with the flow and knowing that you are where you are supposed to be. And if it is somewhere else you're supposed to be, you will be led to be there. Viva Ole is fearless. You know, there is something that was really profound that I read, and that was something that a Hopi elder had said that has to do with our lives today. You know, with with our Native American brothers and sisters, we have so much in common with them. And this Hopi elder said, "You have been telling people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell people that this is the hour, and there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are they the right relationships? Where is your water? Know your garden. It is time to seek your truth. Create your community. Be good to each other. And do not look outside yourself for a leader." Then he clasped his hands together and smiled and said, "This could be a good time." There is a river flowing now, very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who would be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel torn apart and suffer greatly. Know that the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore and push off into the middle of the river. Keep your eyes open, our heads above water, and see who is there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment we do, our spiritual growth and journey comes to a halt. The time for the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves, banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Akamai as smart, but it also means resourceful. There was once an elderly gentleman over in Palm Springs, and he bought a brand new red convertible. And as he drove it out of the dealership, he could feel the wind blowing in his hair. And as he traveled down through the desert, he put the pedal to the metal, and off he went. Soon he was driving 100 miles an hour when he noticed in the rearview mirror was a flashing blue light. Well, he decided to go even faster than that, and off he went down the road. Then he reconsidered and said, "Okay, I better pull over." So he pulled over to the side, and there was the highway patrolman who came to his car. Well, the highway patrolman was not amused. And when he spoke to this elderly gentleman, he said to him, "I'm just about ready to go off my shift, to go home. I really don't want to take the time to write this ticket. If you can tell me one reason I've never heard before of why you are traveling at such a high speed, I'll let you go." Well, the elderly gentleman thought for a moment and said to the officer, "Well, officer, years ago, my wife ran off with a highway patrolman. I thought you were bringing her back." The highway patrolman said, "Have a nice day, sir." Resourceful means thinking outside the box. And I think he was really thinking outside the box. Sometimes we need to look for inspiration, you know. Sometimes we have to stretch it a little bit, you know. But Akamai is resourceful. Okay, let's see. I'll come over here and have you pick one. This one. Okay, thank you. This Hawaiian value is the word olu olu. Can you say that? Olu olu means caring. This is a story about a little girl who's 5 years old. Her name is Lindsay. And Lindsay was a premature baby. And she practically lived in the hospital. She had many medical problems. And the nurses there loved Lindsay. But Lindsay had a favorite nurse. And this nurse's name is Lori. And Lori was so nice to her. She would come to work and bring color crayons and bring a book to read to Lindsay. And Lindsay loved her so much. Well, one day when Lori came to work, Lindsay was all excited. And she said to Lori, "When I grow up, I want to be what you are." And of course, Lori was very happy, and she said, "Lindsay, you will make a wonderful nurse one day." Well, Lindsay shook her head. No, she said, "Not a nurse." She said, "When I grow up, I want to be an angel." I want to tell you that you are an angel in the lives of people around you. And you may not even know it. Sometimes our angel wings are not showing, but the angelic part comes from within, our heart. There are those who look forward to seeing you every day, whether it is to hear your voice, whether it is your calm ways, whether it is your excitement or your smile. You are an angel to them in their lives. And many blessings go to you from all of these people who love you so much. Olu olu is caring. You know, caring is something that's very elusive. If it's not there, it's very hard to put it there. I used to have a care home, and the nurses who worked there had to have that caring in their heart. I don't care how good they were at doing different things. If the caring wasn't there, then they couldn't, they couldn't interact with the family and the people that were in the home. And even a sense of humor was important, as well as that caring. So this is something that's very, very important. I had a woman at my care home who had Alzheimer's, and she would read everything out loud. The newspaper, you hear her talking out loud, you know exactly what she's reading. Well, one day I had to move her room, and because, for whatever reason it was, we had to move her. And she kept going back. She'd go to the bathroom at night, go back to her own room. And there would be somebody there, and she'd walk into the room and touch all the things on her dresser, put things away in the drawer, and you can't lock the door. You can't do that. So I put a sign on the door, "Do not enter." And in the middle of the night, she'd go to the bathroom. Then I'd hear her standing in front of the door, reading out loud, "Do not enter." And she'd open the door and go right in. And so finally I thought, what am I going to do about this? The lady in that room said, "If this doesn't stop, I'm leaving." So now we needed desperate measures. So I had an idea. This has more to do with akamai and resourceful. I wrote a little note and put it on her door. That night she went to the bathroom, and when she came back, I heard her read the sign. It said, "Beware of dog." And she turned around and she left.
You have to know your patient.
Yes, that's true. So that's about being caring, and she was such a delightful woman. I'll never forget her. She would play songs on her ukulele, real kolohe songs for all of our guests who would come to her. She would be there singing all these songs and raising her little eyebrows. She was so cute, and I loved her so much. Olu olu is caring.
Come way in the back here.
Okay, I'll get. There we go. Well, you chose the one with the prize. It's a special prize, and it's in here. And there's a prize in here for everyone. And it's so small and so light. But I'm going to open it, and I'm going to have you pass it around. I'm going to pass it around to all of you. Please take one. So you chose the right one.
All right.
The name of our Hawaiian value is ho'ohaoli. Can you say that? Ho'ohaoli. Ho'ohaoli means to be joyful. And you have a little present there that makes the inner child in you be joyful. There was a man who had a dream that he had died and gone to heaven. And in heaven, he was taken on an orientation tour by God. And as he passed this one door, the door was closed. And Keoki says, what's behind this door? And God said, well, it's not very good. You really don't want to see it. And Keoki was very, very curious. And he said to God, please, I really, really want to see what's behind that door. So God said, okay. And he opened the door, and there was a room filled with beautiful gifts. There was a widescreen TV and a microwave oven, and there was a pool table, and there was a beautiful white Rolls Royce. Well, Keoki had his eye on the white Rolls Royce, and he said to God, what's wrong with all these gifts? And God said, these are the gifts I have for people. And for whatever reason, they could not accept it. So I'm holding it for them until they can finally accept it, or until I can give it to someone else. Well, Keoki, he said, wow, God, can I take a look at that white Rolls Royce? It really looks cool. So God said, go ahead. So Keoki went over to the white Rolls Royce, and he looked at the tag, he turned it over, and his eyes got so big, he said, God, this has my name on it. He said, you know, I prayed to you every night for a car. And there was a moment of silence, and God said, that's right, Keoki. Every night you pray to me for a used Toyota. Now, why would Keoki have prayed for a used Toyota when he really wanted this white Rolls Royce? Maybe he thought that was all he could get. Maybe he thought that was all he deserved. You know, we need to live in joy. God is a source of an unending supply of whatever it is that we want. He can just as easily give us a used Toyota as a white Rolls Royce. And it's not in asking for something that you're not worthy to receive. It's asking for something you know that you are worthy to receive and that you deserve. You know, I wanted a home. My husband and I were looking for a home. And I decided that God was going to be my realtor. So on a little envelope, I wrote down all the qualities in a house that I wanted. I wanted a house that was more plantation style, but it had to be modern inside. The kitchen had to have the most modern appliances, with an island and a French doors, Berber carpet, an automatic sprinkler system, a tree, and wonderful neighbors. And so I wrote this down and I gave it to my realtor, who's God, and I said, please help me find this house. Well, does this mean I never have to look in the newspaper? Of course I have to look. I have to keep looking. Well, one day we're driving along through Kailua, and I saw this plantation-style house. And I said to my husband, stop, let's pull in here. I want to see this home. We walked in the front door, and there was a Berber carpet. There was a modern kitchen with all the appliances and the French doors. It had everything that I had wanted. And I asked the man how much it was. Well, we were short $35,000 for a down payment for this home. And as much as we tried, we could not get forget it. But every night we would go to that house because it was empty. It was empty. And I would look in the window, the French doors, and I said, if we had this house, I'd put the coffee maker here, and I'd put all the canisters there, and I was dreaming about what I would do if I lived in this house. Every open house they had, we were there. So the realtor knew us. Hi, Mrs. Carroll. Hi, Mr. Carroll. Good to see you again. And as much as we tried, we asked the realtor. He said, the only person who can change the price of this house is the owner, who is the contractor, and he's not going to do it. Well, it seemed like a month went by, and 2 months went by, and still this home was not sold. The address was 279 Pu'uwai Road, which is right in Kapuaokalani. Well, one day, and by that time I was kind of feeling down, and I happened to open the newspaper, and there was a house for sale, and it was on 270 Pu'uwai Road. I thought, wow, it must be really nearby. I called, and the man said he was the owner. He said, have you seen my house? And I said, no, I've looked at a house nearby. And as he described it, well, it's a plantation-style house. Everything is modern inside. It has Berber carpet. I said, I know that house. You wrote the wrong address on your ad, and that's the reason why I called. And he said, I put so much extra money and time into this house. I have decided today that I'm going to sell it, and I will only sell it to someone who absolutely loves this house. And I said, I love it. And he said, well, come down to the house and we'll talk. As he walked out of the car, he was walking like this. And as a Lomilomi Kumu, what do we do to remove pain? We rub our hands together and we draw all the pain away. And his pain was gone. And he said to me, what do you need to be able to buy this house? And we said, we're short $35,000. He said, I'll loan it to you. And he did. He loaned us the money, and we got the house. And this is a kind of a far out story. It was kind of beyond our means. It was more than what we could afford, but it got us started. We lived there for 1 year, and then we sold it and bought a home in Kuhinapapa. But it was the start for us. And I want to tell you that dreams do come true. Ask for the things that you want. And you know what? Don't worry about how it's going to happen. Let God take care of it. He's got some amazing tricks up his sleeve. And you can have the things that you truly want. Kapuaokalani means to live in joy. Your little pinwheel there is so that you can blow it with the breath of life and the breath of the ancestors to live your dream and to be happy. Kapuaokalani is joyful. Okay. There is one other story. I don't know how much time we have. Oh, here's one. We have lots of elderly gentlemen in these stories. I don't know why. There was an elderly gentleman, Italian gentleman, who wrote us a letter to his son who was in prison, and he said, "Dear Sonny, you know, I'm wanting to plant my tomato garden, but the dirt is so hard, and I no longer have the strength I used to have. And I've tried working out in the garden, but I just can't do it. I wish that you were here to help me the way you always do. It looks like we won't have any tomatoes this year." Well, he received a letter back from his son, and the letter said, "Dear Pop, don't dig in the garden. That's where the bodies are buried." Well, the next morning at 4 a.m., there was the FBI and the police that came with heavy equipment and dug up his whole garden, and they found nothing. They apologized and they left. And then the father received another letter from his son. It said, "Dear Pop, now you can plant the tomatoes." That was the best I could do under these circumstances. Yeah. who we are and what we believe in, and in our love for each other. Claim the power that is yours. You know, as women, many times we have given our power away. We're so used to saying yes. Our kids are the perfect ones who say, oh, Mom, can you babysit? Can you do this? And way after they're grown up, they're still taking their laundry home for Mom to do. And whose fault is it that it's come to this? It's our fault. Yes, because we have allowed them to do this and to take advantage of us. We have become invisible because we have given away our power. If someone says to us, would you like to go out and have dinner, maybe Mexican food or Hawaiian food, what would you like to do? You go, I don't care, doesn't matter. And the next time they ask, you say, I don't care. The third time, they don't even bother to ask. And then we get resentful because nobody asked us. But we have no idea what we want. So part of claiming our power is saying what we feel. It may be, I want this, or I don't want this. You know, I'm sorry, I can't go, I can't help you. Often we're asked to do things, and it's putting us out. But we say, okay, I'll do it. And then we complain about it later on. Okay? So we are important too. We have a life that's busy. So we need to say, if someone says, can you do this for me? It's perfectly okay to say, I'm sorry, that's when I go to the hairdresser and get my hair done. Or that's when I'm having a hot fudge sundae, or whatever it is, you know, because you don't have to apologize. You are important also. Reclaim your power, make your choices of what is important to you. Well, I would like to thank you for being here and listening to this. And